Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone, great to see you. Today we are talking about innovation, strategy, and growth. Hi, Nick. And today I have with me Nick Skillicorn, business owner, ClickRent.ze, and creativity expert. Hi, Nick. Great to see you.
Hi, Adi. Good to see you again. I know we did a podcast interview that's coming up live in a couple of weeks' time. So looking forward to seeing what we've got to talk about today.
Sure. It was interesting for the first time, so I'm sure it's going to be interesting again. And I want to welcome everybody that's here with us. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Adi Mazor Kario, Innovation and Value Creation Expert, and I'll be your host. And we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're much invited to join the discussion and ask questions. We'd love to hear what you think. Okay, Nick, now we can start. So, how could companies manage uncertainties about customer behavior and market change and financial forecast? We are just in such an uncertain time, so it's so important.
I mean, that's a big question. If I had the answer to that, I'd probably be a trillionaire by now. But I think the actual question is, what does it mean to manage uncertainty, and why do we feel the need to do it? Of course, companies get very fearful when they don't know what's going to happen, how customers are going to react, how the market might change. And quite often companies try and either do two things. They try and reduce their risk by reducing the types of programs they're investing in, or improve the amount of information they have available to make better decisions. And I want to start with the second one of those because it's actually something that I find very interesting, this desire to always get a better answer and have better answers. There's a lot of desire nowadays to use data analytics and reporting and dashboards to try and find the perfect thing to do. And that goes back to a real innate human trait around trying to reduce risk and reduce uncertainty.
Yeah.
But the amount of information you have available doesn't necessarily relate to you actually making better decisions. And you know me, I'm very much into the research behind how ideas happen and how decisions get made. It reminds me of a study that was done in the 1970s by a professor who wanted to see what's the relationship between someone's confidence in making a decision and someone's accuracy based on the amount of information that's available. Yeah. And what he did is he was speaking with gamblers who were betting on horse races. To see the amount of information that they have available, does it result in them being more successful with the bets that they place? And he did this by providing them either with 5 bits of information about the horse race, so the size of the horse, the number of races they'd won, the weight of the jockey, etc. And then subsequently giving them access to more and more types of information. So first 5 pieces, then 10, then 25, and then at the end, 40 different pieces, all of which can provide more information about making the right decision. And what he found was when these gamblers only had 5 pieces of information, they were around 17% accurate in their bets. So they won about 17% of the time. And they were about 19% confident before the race had happened that they were going to be successful. So a very close relationship. But what happened is when they went from 5 to 10, to 25 to 40 pieces of information, they got more and more and more confident. So they went from being 19% confident all the way up to about 30% confident when they had 40 pieces of information. But the accuracy actually stayed exactly the same. It never improved. It stayed exactly the same. And I think even though that's an example from one industry, it goes back to the psychological sort of hardwired things that we have in our brains that say, if I have more information to make better decisions, then later on I can make a better decision. So a lot of companies fall victim to something called analysis paralysis, where they want to get more and more information about how the customer can react, what the market might do, before they're willing to actually say, we're going to make a change and we're going to make a decision. So either what ends up happening is companies don't know what the right decision is, and so they try and reduce risk by reducing spending in cases that aren't going to make a direct return on investment. And a lot of those are more forward-looking, growth-orientated, innovative programs. Or they spend so much time trying to get as much information as possible that they delay making a decision. They suffer more during the interim time period where they could have made a decision. And the decision they make at the end is unlikely to be that much better than it would have been if they'd made it early on. So what companies can do instead is to say, we have a strategy that we are working towards, and very fundamentally ask themselves the question, do we believe this strategy will still hold true in the next 1, 2, 3 years' time? If so, stay on course and ask yourself, what activities can we continue doing, do more of, or do less of to stay on course with the strategy, but save money where it's appropriate without necessarily sacrificing the potential for future growth.
Yeah, I think that in general, we see that big companies, what they do is that they understand that they need to experiment and try what's going, like how really things are in the market, and not only imagine and strategize all the time instead of like, let's do an experiment, see if we're the right direction or not, and then continue from there. Because you can do strategy and think about what could be for a very long time, and it could take so much of your efforts and resources instead of really getting the answers, which is very important. That's very important. So what is the best way to handle uncertainty and crisis as you see it?
The best way to handle uncertainty and crisis, it's a combination of things. First of all, very rarely is it a good idea to completely change your business model, your target customers, your strategic focus, just because outside forces have changed. So there's a degree of, as I said, asking the strategy that we have and the focus areas, to what degree are they still right? And what should we maybe ramp down or ramp up a little more than one another in as far as the customers that we're targeting? Should we put maybe a little bit more effort in one group and take it away from the other group? And what opportunities for keeping the core business afloat and alive exist as well? So are there opportunities to talk with suppliers about maybe a discount if you're purchasing reduced volumes? Speaking with your financial institution about whether or not there's bridging loans that can happen, and being very open with your staff about what is the current situation in the business, what impacts it might have, and how the business is reacting to it strategically. One of the worst things you can do is to keep your company in silence internally, because that might lead to a lot of fear and anxiety of the people who don't know what impact it's going to have on them. That's going to affect performance. It's also going to affect morale, and it's going to affect your ability to adapt to new opportunities when they become available as well. So I'm a big proponent of keeping people in the loop, but it also does require people to make these strategic decisions, and very, very rarely does design by committee work very well. So yes, you want to involve everyone and allow everyone to have a voice, but quite often these people are looking to leadership to set the direction and the tone of the business, and they will follow with their own tone as a response to that. So that's what companies should probably do at the leadership strategic level. It is, however, also very important to, where it makes sense, get information from the market. Even if you don't want to say, okay, I need to get 40 points of different data sets before I can make a decision, go out there and find some information, especially from your target customers, your current customers, and the non-users as well. So how is the market reacting to whatever product or service that you're supplying? How might that change based on either fear of what's going on in the market, like we are now with COVID? People are outside less often. They're not allowed to necessarily go to food and entertainment locations like they were previously. But would they still want those products and services if they were offered in a different way? We've seen a lot of uptick in restaurants providing deliveries because there's now more demand for that. There's sort of new ways of getting your services to customers, whether it's remotely rather than in person. A lot of yoga studios, for example, are now doing online classes instead of in-person classes. And you might lose certain aspects of what made the business unique, but you might gain new aspects of what can make the business unique as well. So go out there and find out what is happening in the market in the mind of your customers. And that'll help you reduce the uncertainty to a degree as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're saying that they will not change their business model surely from side to side, but since everything is changing around them, they really need to consider what are the aspects that will stay the same after COVID and what are the aspects that they might need to really reinvent and think about differently about it. And if they always focus on their core abilities, they will not be able to predict the future trends and what's going on outside. And that's why they need to really talk to their clients all the time, I guess.
Absolutely.
Which is very important.
The end customer doesn't necessarily always want the product or the service in the way that the company is selling it. They want the outcome. So how can you get the outcome for the customer maybe in a new way? Through different channels, through maybe adjusted business models. All of these things are opportunities to think of your business and reduce uncertainty that way.
Yeah. And I guess that because everything is different, you have so many open opportunities out there just to understand where can you grow or where can you do things better or reinvent your aspects of your business in order to really adjust to the change. Right?
Absolutely, yes.
It's so important. So what is the most important aspect in innovation strategy as you see it?
Well, I think having an innovation strategy is probably a good place to begin.
That's a good start.
Most companies, if they were to really look at what they have from a leadership level, they don't actually have an innovation strategy. Very few companies actually have a well-formulated strategy at all. And they might confuse having a mission statement or a set of targets or a purpose statement as a strategy. That's not a strategy. A strategy involves setting out what choices you make on where you want to play in the market and how you're going to win in that market and how you set up your business to be successful. And that strategy then filters down into all the activity that you're doing in the business itself. How you measure against, am I aligning my activity against that strategy? Most companies don't have that at a corporate level, let alone at an innovation level. So if you want to have a successful innovation strategy, you need to sit down and really think, how does innovation help me move the needle towards this set of strategic goals that we've set? And what types of resources do we need? What types of activities will we focus on? And just as importantly, what choice do we make, therefore, of activities that we will not focus on? Strategy is all about choices, and therefore having an innovation strategy sets out what you will do and what you will not do as well.
Yeah, I think that in general, when businesses are successful and they have a pipeline of customers and everything is flowing, they don't really have that maybe resources, time or bandwidth in order to think, but we need to think about not only the next quarter or two, we need to think about 2 or 3 years from now, which is like looks really, really in the distant. And we can't really know. There are so many things in general, we're in a very extreme state of a pandemic, but in general, we know that the market will change and we'll have new competitors and we'll need to deal with new things. So just imagining what are the things that we'll need to tackle on the future way, I guess, which is, it's what they need to handle in general, surely right now. And with everything changing.
I'm a very big fan, just to elaborate on that point, I'm a very big fan of the innovation portfolio framework. So having an innovation portfolio means that you know what types of activities, both incremental, adjacent, and transformational your company is working on. And having the innovation strategy and corporate strategy means you're now able to look at your portfolio and see how each of those projects, ventures, whatever you might be building, aligns with that strategy. It also helps you assess new ideas as to whether or not they're aligned with that strategy. And I think a lot of companies would benefit from being much clearer on their innovation strategy to help them set the message to their people about what would be a successful innovation in the company's eyes. That helps reduce the amount of ideas and perhaps projects that are worked on, which don't actually end up providing end benefits to the company. And it also means the projects that are worked on are more likely to actually provide value and return on investment in the long term.
Yeah, I think that's in general, when you don't invest in a very specific project or product that you want to elaborate your resources on, and you see there are several opportunities, you act like a VC actually, because you know that some of them will deliver results as I expected, and some of them will not, and we need to
Absolutely,
place our eggs in all of these likenesses. So, what is the biggest obstacles to innovation in general?
There's a lot, and I could talk for hours on the subject, but let's probably maybe focus on one or two. And the one which really comes to mind is the handover process. And by that I mean, if you have a team which is responsible for doing the innovation work in the company, quite often that's very much at the front of the funnel. You're developing the ideas, you're maybe developing the MVP, you're probably even proving product market fit. And then the handover needs to happen, the handover to the core business. And it's only at that point when the innovation is actually providing scalability and value within the business that the business actually ends up benefiting. Now, the people in the core business usually are not the ones who have developed the innovation. And the innovation might even change the way they need to work, the success criteria that they're judged on, and require skills and mindsets that they don't have. And that's why a lot of innovations end up really struggling to come into the core business, affect change, and provide benefits to the business in the long term. So there's a couple of ways that you can address that. One is bringing core business team members, and especially decision makers, into the innovation process much earlier on, so they feel a sense of involvement. And it's more likely, therefore, that by the time the handover needs to happen, they've already thought through, okay, what's going to be the impact here? How do I prepare for the impact? How do I make sure the teams affected by it are comfortable with it? And how can we see the benefits for the whole company and the benefits of the people who are going to be impacted in the way that we look at success criteria? Alternatively, if the aim of the innovation is not to actually impact the core business, you could set up either a venture system or a scaling at the edge way of doing innovation, where you actually provide the resources for these innovations to continue to grow outside of the core business, even if that means they end up competing with your established business units, your established products. But let market forces take over and see, what do customers want? Do they want to see and purchase and pay for these other innovations which may start out small but are given resources to scale up, or the existing way of doing it? And that way the company can benefit from both ways of doing it.
Yeah, I think what you said is true. If you do you bring startups and open innovation into your company as well, because in many cases you have such talented people with such great technology, and you take it to your company, and then you need to struggle, like, how can they merge these two very different systems into one? And if you involve people that they are leaders within the company, within the core product, into what the startup is doing, or a small team within the innovation team. So it makes them, first, the buy-in is better, and they get the understanding of what is done before, and they give feedback, which is very important, on evolving these projects and startups to the direction that is fit to this point when they're meeting, right? So there is this point when they need to merge into something, if they mean to merge or to elaborate the features and the capabilities of the core product. So it's the same thing. And in general, collaboration and co-creation is so important in order to take things further than what you currently know or do.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So how do you see innovation affected by the COVID crisis?
As I alluded to at the beginning, there's been a lot of companies that, because of the uncertainty, are going to a place of fear. And there's a lot of investment that has been reduced or sometimes even halted into future growth-focused businesses and aspects of the business. There's been a lot of businesses which are effectively trying to save the core business and save the jobs that exist in the current business by saving wherever possible, reducing marketing spend, reducing spend on research and development, on new ventures, on external partnerships, on recruitment overall. And as a result, I think that's been the biggest impact for many companies, because every company is going to be different, but for many companies, the view right now is to prevent the ship from sinking, rather than to see what ways we can make the ship more agile and react to the rough waters around it, and to actually be able to sail off into new harbors in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that we're saying like companies are acting this way, but actually it's leaders, it's people that are, when they face uncertainty, they are afraid of it. And it's like the human nature, like when you're kids, we're afraid of the dark. It's the same thing, right? So why we're afraid of the dark? Because we cannot, nothing is certain. We don't know what's out there. So the same thing is here. And even for companies who are not affected, they have the same like stream of revenues as before. They want to stop everything and see what's going on before we continue. And instead of like trying to gather as much information as possible and to think about what are the options we have out there, I think it's starting to change right now as I see it, because from my experience, companies are trying to avoid change in the beginning, and they try to think, okay, it will pass, we'll go back to where it was. But now they understand that even if they go back to where it was, it will not be the same place. People will be different. Their customers' needs are different. The way they understand their value proposition is different, and therefore they'll need to change. So it's
Absolutely,
like they waited, and it will not happen what they wished will happen.
I can't remember exactly who said this quote. I think it may have been Warren Buffett or another big famous investor, but they said you should never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah, it's Churchill.
Churchill, okay.
Yeah.
And I think we're in one of those times now as well, where ironically, the fact that the world has in some ways completely had to change the way it's working actually gives us a very big opportunity and permission to try new things now, because you can do a lot of very small experiments with market feedback that you couldn't have done before at scale. A lot more people are more willing to try things out remotely and engage with businesses virtually and remotely that they weren't able to do before. And as such, now might be a time to actually try out experiments in new business models, new customer channels, new marketing opportunities, new ways of engaging with customers, new ways of bringing customer insights into your product development process, and perhaps even launching new products and services in new ways that wouldn't have been done before. Because the companies that are investing now in innovation, in research and development, and especially in figuring out what customers actually would be willing to pay for, even if it's just a sort of a test to see whether there's a willingness to try a new product or service, an interest in it with lead pages, landing pages, whatever it might be. those are going to be the companies that, when the economy picks up more, and the economy has shown signs of recovery now already, they're going to be they're going to have the momentum behind them to actually scale up these new ideas, these new business models, in ways that companies that have hit the brakes on everything just are not able to do. So with every sort of challenge, there's also new ways of responding to that challenge. And I think there was a Harvard Business Review article a while back to see which companies came out of recessions the best.
Yeah, I saw this.
Was it companies who tried to just save costs especially by reducing headcount and firing people, trying to keep costs the same, or even in some cases increasing investment in new ideas. And the companies which were the most successful overall post-recession were the ones that tried to keep as many people as possible in the company by reducing redundancies, while also investing in new ideas, as well as cost reduction where possible in their supply chain, in other aspects of the business. So it's now really an opportunity to try out those new innovations and maybe bring them to the market a bit earlier than you would have previously been comfortable with as an experiment.
Sure, I totally agree. This is what I'm doing. I have this Catalyst program that takes from an idea to a product. And I always think, like, what's the value right now? And it seems that the companies who invested in understanding what are the new needs actually, should we reinvent some of our features and capabilities, maybe some of our products, maybe we need to create something new, maybe like just to understand where the needle is moving. And these companies were the ones who are most successful. And in general, we think about recession as time that companies are going down. But actually, companies who started in recession are more prone to succeed, which is like contra what we usually think. And they are more prone to succeed because there are changes. And when people are changing, you can offer something new because they're changing, right? And especially when things are breaking. And right now we see so many things are not working as we expected. So this is the best time for you to just find these things, these opportunities, seize them as a business and see what you could do with them, which is so interesting to think about how exciting this could be, not only make you feel anxious, it could be a bit more excitement than being anxious. So could you tell us like about a use case that you maybe with one of your clients, one of the companies you work with, and how innovation strategy helped them succeed and go and grow further?
So let me just think about that. I think a good example is actually the company that I'm working with now. It's a corporate incubator called Zeppelin Lab. It's within one of the largest construction industry companies in Germany, one of the oldest ones as well, Zeppelin. And it's a venture builder. So we are building out ventures, new business units effectively, and testing them, developing them at the market. And now a couple of them are at the stage where they want to reach scale. And even though the economy has been a bit challenging, it's meant that we've had to change the way that we work. So there's been this big move towards remote working, but that's also meant that we can engage with our customers remotely more than we did previously as well. And as a result, we can now shift our strategy towards what might this future look like if customers in what was previously a very, very risk-averse digitally industry. Construction industry, I think worldwide is listed as the second least digitized industry in the world. Second least, just above fisheries and hunting.
Wow!
And that's that's only because there's only so many chips that you can put on a fishing rod before it's fully automated. But if people in the construction industry are being forced to adapt the way that they work and communicate with clients and with customers, then now's an opportunity for us to maybe interact with them in a new way as well, and show them the value of digital solutions, which is what we're building in Zeppelin Lab in a new way as well. You can do that through changing the way that you interact with your sales, with them through your sales team, doing more remote work rather than on-site work. You can demonstrate value remotely as well through video more effectively, through marketing channels, and look at how do we approach finding new customers in new ways. So we're investing a lot now in looking at how can we optimize and automate our online marketing channels to figure out not just how can we get as many views on a YouTube video as possible, but asking, are they going to the right people? What does an ideal person, an ideal potential customer look like? Is it just someone who has the biggest bank account, or is it someone who is more likely to invest in a digital solution compared to their peers? So this is exactly the sort of strategic question that we're asking ourselves. And it's been a very sort of exciting time for us internally. And I think as a result of that, we'll be able to scale in 2021 much more effectively than if the construction industry had just continued on as it has done for the last couple of decades.
Yeah. You know, it's so exciting to see that these domains that we think about like as not digitized, not moving, not changing, even them, they see that there is a big potential thinking differently and doing things differently and inventing new things, which is a time to flourish. Everybody grows when you create something which is more fit to their needs, to exactly what they need. And I guess that some of the clients for this industry will be very happy to get all better offers or better opportunities and solutions for them. So it's like, it's really exciting. So we're almost done. Almost, it runs so fast. So what is your number one tip for innovation leaders?
Number one.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think within companies, there's a lot of value which can be had by setting a clearer innovation strategy and having the resources and an innovation framework to actually make it happen. So I know that's a couple of different points, but what it all boils down to is the company set up to actually deliver on innovation, to allow people to not just talk about it, but to try things out, experiment, see what works, and then actually try and scale that up. And in order to do that, you need to have a framework. So either you have validation stage gates is one that I'm a really big fan of. Portfolio theory, I think, is absolutely vital. Frameworks like the 10 types of innovation to help assess what types of projects do we want to do more of, do less of, how does that compare to our competitors? And it's through understanding all of these things and actually putting resources behind them. First of all, leadership sets the precedent of what is allowed in the company. If leadership says, yes, we value innovation, and everything is about cost cutting, performance metrics, and calculating return on investor, sort of return on investment into the future, those types of ways of thinking will translate into people not being able to do innovation as effectively as they can. Whereas if innovation funds exist as part of a portfolio framework, as part of an innovation pipeline, then it gives people the ability to try things out faster, cheaper, and more effectively than they would have previously done. And some of those projects will fail, and that's actually a good thing. But it also gives people the cultural permission and the mindset to try new things, rather than trying to continue proving metrics and proving to management that the business is operating effectively using the same metrics that are being used in the core business. Yeah. So I think, as I said, innovation strategy, innovation frameworks, innovation portfolio, if you can combine the three of those, it's one good way of making sure it happens. I think there's always three dimensions to innovation, and that's the framework that I use and teach with companies. And that's because there's three pillars of teams doing different types of work around innovation. One is the innovation team itself, trying to develop ideas, test those ideas, test the actual solutions. The other one is the management layer. How do you manage innovation? That's the portfolio management, reviewing progress, validating progress, managing budget. And then there's the leadership layer. How do you lead innovation? And that's all around, what is the strategy? What does success look like? Can you communicate that and articulate it? What does risk mean to us? How can we reduce psychological biases like risk aversion? And how do we build up a culture of innovation? And underlying all of that is understanding what a good idea actually is. So understanding the science of creativity. If you can master all of those aspects, then it's much more successful that you'll have a structured approach to innovation, and you'll actually be more successful as a result.
Right. Great points. I think that one more thing about leadership that you mentioned, it's not only the fact that they are saying this is important, we have the resources for it, they need to be more involved in these projects and not only talk about them, because once they are there, they give this is so important that I'm investing my time and energy in that and not only in our core business, which is so important as I see it. I want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. And I hope that everybody who listened, I'm sure they got the insights. So I want to thank you for your time, Nick. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining me. I see you next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye. I'd like to invite you to Nick's wonderful blog and podcast. It's in idea2value.com, where you'll find successful experts' insights on creativity and innovation. I'm Adi Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.